This is Miss Steele's Algebra 2. We're doing a Chapter 10 review. The next two problems I'm going to complete is just writing different conics in standard form, and we're going to do so by completing the square. So our first step when completing the square is to get all of our x terms together and all of our y terms together. So I'm going to start out by bringing my x squared minus 4x, and I'm going to leave a little space, plus y squared minus 2y, leave a little space, and then set this equal to, I need to bring my negative 4 to the right-hand side. So when I bring my negative 4, I have to add 4 to both sides. So I'm on the right-hand side, I'm left with a 4. Now, when completing the square, it's really important to make sure that the coefficients out in front of both squared terms is a 1. If it's not a 1, you need to factor out whatever coefficient that is. From all of them, if there's a 2 in front of the x squared term, then you need to factor out a 2 from the x squared and the x term. Since both of our coefficients are 1, we're going to say plus and then write a little box. Same thing with the y. Plus, write a little box. Whatever we add to one side, we have to add to the other side to make sure that our equation stays equivalent. So when we complete the square, we take our b term and then divide it by 2 and square it. So looking at this, at our x terms, negative 4 is our b term. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, and negative 2 quantity squared is 4. So in the first boxes, we're going to go ahead and write a 4. Looking at our y terms, negative 2 is now our b term. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is just 1. So you can go ahead and write once. So now we can factor these into the first term, x minus 2 quantity squared. And anytime you factor this, it's just the b term divided by 2. So negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So that's why we have x minus 2 quantity squared plus, in our next set of parentheses, take that negative 2. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So y minus 1 quantity squared equals, and on the right-hand side, you can just add up our values. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus another 1 is 9. So we have x minus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals 9. We are able to leave this as is because this is the formula we need for a circle. If you look back to our original, we have x squared plus y squared. So that means that if the coefficients are both 1s, we're dealing with a circle. So we are able to leave our formula as x minus 2 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared equals 9. Take a look at the next example. The next example says, write y squared minus 13x plus 14y plus 75 equals 0 in standard form. If we were to classify this conic, since this y squared term is the only squared term, we know that we're dealing with a parabola. So don't let this freak you out because there's no x squared terms. That just means that we're only going to complete the square one time. So we're going to start off by getting all of our y terms together. So y squared plus 14y, and then we have that negative 13x plus 75 equals 0. However, since we can only complete the square with the y terms, we're going to go ahead and get the x term and the constant term on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and add 13x and subtract 75. So now we're left with y squared plus 14y. I'm going to leave a little space so I can do my plus my box, and then equals 13x minus 75. So now we just go ahead and complete the square just as I did in the previous example. So go ahead and add a box to both sides. So now we take our b term. In order to complete the square, take b divided by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 7 squared is 49. So in our boxes, we're going to go ahead and write 49. This is all we have to do for the parabola, so now let's go ahead and rewrite this in factored form. So this can since 14 divided by 2 is positive 7, we're going to have y plus 7 quantity squared. And then equals 13x. If we take negative 75 plus 49, we end up with negative 26. And now this looks very similar to what a parabola equation should look like. However, we need to get rid of the coefficient out in front of the x. So we're going to end up having parentheses on the right-hand side as well. So we're going to go ahead and factor out a 13 on the right-hand side. So we're still going to have y plus 7's quantity squared on the left. And when we factor out a 13, we are left with x minus 2. Now this looks like a parabola equation in standard form, and this is a horizontal parabola with center at 2, negative 7. So if we're asked to find the center, it's at 2,